Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Abhishek Suryawanshi. I'm from India and I always looked up to Wikipedia as a global project and it's amazing. Like we live in the different parts of the world but we are connected by the same mission and same vision. And let me introduce to about our today's panelists. We have Alice. Alice is the founder of the AfroCROWD. We have Sherry with us. She's the program director of the AfroCROWD user group and began working with the Alice on the initiative since 2015. Then we have Anne with us. Anne is a librarian at LaGuardia Community College. We have Ximena. Ximena teaches at the LaGuardia Community College. It is one of the most polyglot places in the world. She is interested in using translation as a means to introduce her students to the possibilities of Wikipedia and the goals of the Wikimedia movement. Harold is a Cuban graduate student at Columbia University and he specializes in development, technology, and media. And we have Daniel. Daniel is the co-founder and director of Wikitongues, a non-profit community of 1,000 volunteers working to ensure every person has the tools to preserve, promote, and pass their languages to the next generation. Big round of applause for our panelists. With this, first I would like to request Anne and Ximena to come on stage. Thank you so much.
So we're talking about Wikipedia as a global project, and I think I heard there was some interest in also in the educational context of using Wikipedia. That's something that that we could. There's also another panel at the end of the day too that you should stick around for because they'll talk more about that. But it's been really amazing, and at LaGuardia Community College. As Abhishek mentioned, I mean, it's possibly one of the most linguistically diverse, college campuses in the country. It really is amazing, and what's so interesting about using Wikipedia as in an English writing class, So Ximena teaches English 101 and English 102, and together, an English professor and me, a librarian, we've been sort of pairing on on using Wikipedia in a whole range of different classes, actually, or different themed English 101 and English 102 classes. Something that Ximena has tried more recently is to, she asks students to either edit an English language Wikipedia entry or translate an entry from either direction, and we found this to be tremendously useful. And when she first suggested this, I thought I was a little bit intimidated by that because every language Wikipedia is a different community with its own different conventions as to how it operates, and that can be challenging. I mean, it's challenging on a whole number of levels, but we've in our trial and error process, we've come up with various workarounds. So if you're ever interested in doing this kind of translation project in whatever organization or context you're in, contact us. The Wikipedia is all about community. We're happy to share what we've learned and what the hurdles are and what are some potential workarounds could be. The students found it tremendously satisfying. I mean, no matter what, if it's a translation project or if it's just doing simple editing for some entry in the English Wikipedia that you're interested in. There's some. I think we found that the work that they put into it tends to be more. Not only does it energize them about the work, because if you're doing a classroom project with Wikipedia, that writing and research that you produce, it's not simply for an audience of one, the professor who's grading your work, right? It is publishing it on a platform that's the most widely viewed one online. So we found that the work that they put into it, it's not merely for their grade, right? They're interested in the work being, the quality of the work in and of itself because of that publicity, because they're able to not only give it to their professor for a grade, but they can show it to their family and friends at home and say, hey, I did the work that I did. It has an impact that's it just provides an experience that a lot of young people just haven't had that kind of experience, right? That their voice and their work, is valuable, right? And I think that's one of the strengths of Wikipedia also as a platform, that it continues to be so open to this kind of project. The translate-a-thon, we designed this event and we invited faculty, even some faculty who teach translation came to the event, and Sherry and Alice from AfroCROWD, they partnered with us, as well as Daniel from Wikitongues. They also came to our translation events and really helped make it successful. We're going to, Ximena is here. We're going to try this again in the spring, and hopefully it'll be even bigger, That's it. Anyway. Okay.
Thank you so much for sharing wonderful insights. Now I would like to request Alice and Sherry to share about AfroCROWD and the initiative. Thank you so much.
Let's hope so. Okay, great. It is.
Wikipedia is available in 299 languages. That includes many languages from African countries and the African diaspora, such as Igbo, Yoruba, Haitian Creole, English, Spanish, and French. Each of these language Wikipedias has its own rules, and some have considerably fewer entries than, say, English or Spanish. While the English version alone currently boasts over 5 million articles, Haitian Creole, for example, has 51,000, and Yoruba has only 31,000. There are also initiatives currently working to expand and to preserve collections on languages which are disappearing. Garifuna, a language spoken by descendants of West African, Central African, Island Carib, European, and Arawak peoples in the Americas, has been recognized as a historical world treasure by UNESCO. Endangered languages like these are in incubator mode on Wikipedia. That means they're waiting for the community to write about them. Do you speak any of these languages? You can click the link below to find out how you can contribute. To access Wikipedia in your preferred language, start at the homepage. That's www.wikipedia.org. There, you'll find links to some options such as English, Spanish, French, and Chinese prominently displayed. If you don't immediately see the language option you're looking for, scroll further down and you'll see every language option listed by the number of articles. Typically, the name for a site is the official 2-letter language code, followed by .wikipedia.org. For example, English would be en.wikipedia.org, Spanish, es.wikipedia.org, Yoruba, yo.wikipedia.org, Haitian Creole, ht.wikipedia.org, French, fr.wikipedia.org, and so on and so forth. See you in the next tutorial.
Okay, my name is Alice. I am the founder of AfroCROWD. We started in 4 years ago, in February, Black History Month. And this is Alice, the program director. We wanted to show you this video because we thought it would be a good illustration of our philosophy of how languages are inherent to what we do in reaching out to people of African descent to present Wikipedia as a tool to them that they can interact with. I think this is one of the videos that we include in our trainings so that when people show up at editathons, they understand that all of these languages are available to them. New York is a city full of immigrants, the United States generally. All of the populations and all the languages that we brought up here are spoken in New York, so we feel like it's only normal that as AfroCROWD we make sure that people know they can come and not just edit in English. I'll let Sherry take it away in terms of what we've done in the Translate-a-thon and at the global level.
So the reason I said, come on, clap, is because that took a lot of work. We worked for it for, Megan knows, we worked on it for a while. And, so thank you so much for the support and everything for things like that we do. I'm gonna just go really quickly about some of the things we've done on the global level. We've really been heavily involved in connecting with partners within the Wikipedia community abroad, like in Nigeria and Ghana. For example, we've been in Indaba and other programs. But in New York, we were just so lucky to be able to connect with everyone at LaGuardia.
Hello from LaGuardia! Hola! Hello from LaGuardia!
Okay, that's enough shit. Okay, that's enough. And we've also been able to connect with some people at Columbia and other places to help initialize, I believe is the word, the Caribbean group. We've been working heavily with just different ways of innovating connection. But I think one thing that you can say about being a global group is really just the fact that there are already many wonderful people throughout the Wikimedia movement that are dedicated to representation, not only country-wise, but by indigenous populations, linguistically, and so forth. And we've been very lucky to connect with some awesome people as organizers in AfroCROWD in places like Paris and Barcelona, where we've had editathons, as well as London and different parts of the country. So, for example, this is one of our organizers who organized in Paris recently, an editathon with the same purpose, to encourage people of African descent to be a part of the Wikipedia community and to edit, and also to improve content about people in the African diaspora. And we will love to go on and on about it all day, so just pull one of us aside. But I think the greatest thing that we've learned of expanding beyond our borders here in New York and going global is that once you connect one-on-one with people on different levels in different ways, both here and abroad, you're able to get a more expanded view of what's possible within the movement and also within our shared purposes. I want to leave with a group that we've loved working with already called Wikitongues. And Wikitongues joined with us to work on oral history collection, which is something that we've been blessed to be able to start. And Daniel Berger Udell, did I say that right? Has been a great partner in that. And so I'm going to say hello to Daniel.
Hi everybody, how you all doing today? Excellent. Let me try and, let's see, are we good? Yes. All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you to Wikimedia NYC for organizing, and thank you, Sherry, for the kind words. I'm excited to tell everyone a little bit about Wikitongues and particularly what we're doing with AfroCROWD and other parts of the Wikimedia movement as far as oral histories are concerned today. So as Abhishek said, Wikitongues is working to make it easier for people to document, preserve, and pass their languages on to the next generation. And that's because over the next 80 years, as many as half the world's languages are expected to disappear. I'm going to try and actually full screen this. Can I do that? Well, we'll leave it at this. So that's to say that today in 2019, half the world's cultures are struggling with this, what should be a very basic right, and that's passing your language on to the next generation. And one of the most common misconceptions about linguistic diversity I've found is that people tend to think that our waning linguistic diversity is kind of the inevitable result of history, something that kind of happened by accident. But in fact, it was the result of politicians who very much wanted us to only speak a handful of languages. Anthony Forster here was an Australian politician from the 19th century. George Pompidou was president of France in the 1970s. So whether it was the United States, where native children were taken to boarding schools, given English names, and punished for speaking anything other than English, or the UK, where children overheard speaking Welsh were forced to wear this piece of wood that they would later be punished with, our linguistic diversity has literally been beaten out of us over the past couple hundred years. However, the good news is that people are fighting back, and Wikitongues is a small part of that. So we're about 1,000 volunteers around the world working to make it easier for people to get started with a really fundamental part of linguistic preservation and cultural reclamation, which is, of course, documenting your language. And we start basically with oral histories, and that's because oral histories are very, very easy to do. Anyone with any kind of camera can record them, and capturing speech is one of the most fundamental parts of capturing a language. And when we finish these oral histories, we put them online. We publish them on a variety of platforms depending on how they get licensed. And that's because the internet is a really, really important part of preserving and sustaining our linguistic and cultural diversity. Now, a really big misconception, I think, is that the internet is actually making it harder for smaller languages and smaller cultures to sustain themselves because they're getting kind of overrun by media in more dominant languages. But before the internet, the challenge that minority language speakers had was getting pushed out of the public sphere. In other words, when a restaurant in Venice has to advertise that you speak Venetian, that they speak Venetian, you know that that culture is struggling. But the internet kind of changes that, because whether a language is used in the public sphere or not, its speakers can use the language online. So take the Norman language, which is the source of most Latin vocabulary in English. It is spoken now by minority populations in a few islands in the British Channel and parts of France. And even though that language is not really active in the public sphere, you can't necessarily hope to use it to order a beer or your dinner at a restaurant, right? Norman speakers are really, really active on Twitter and are really, really good at memes, right? And so what that does is, A, it gives an opportunity for speakers to use the language on a daily basis, to build solidarity, and to just give their language a little more visibility. And this is a really, really increasingly common practice. So the Tunica Biloxi tribe of Louisiana is a partner of ours. They're actually bringing their language back from the dead. And unfortunately, you can't see in this screenshot, but on their Facebook page, they post really commonly in Tunica, which again, is using their language on a daily basis. So whether it's the Thai Nua language from China and Myanmar, or Cornish in the United Kingdom, people are using the internet to make their languages relevant and to speak them on a daily basis. So the way that Wikitongues primarily contributes to the Wikimedia movement is by populating the commons with oral histories. We've, over the past year, we started our user group and became kind of formally affiliated with the movement. Thank you. And we've contributed so far over 300 oral histories to the Wikimedia Commons, and hope to contribute many hundreds more over the next year. So we teamed up with AfroCROWD, Whose Knowledge, and LaGuardia College to try a different kind of event recently, which we called a recordathon. So you have your edit-a-thons where you're editing Wikipedia in your language, translate-a-thons where you are translating Wikipedia, and we want to encourage people to start thinking about the importance and relevance of oral histories, so captured stories, captured speech, spoken samples of languages that can be used, A, as citations in Wikipedia editions that don't have huge bodies of written content, like the Cornish language, right? And can just be great multimedia for all. So one really, really cool little tidbit about the first AfroCROWD-a-thon that we did at LaGuardia College is that we managed to get one submission from Ghana, making it a truly transatlantic event. I was told that the video wasn't going to be supported, so I didn't I didn't pull the video up, but it's there on the Commons. Just look up Samuel speaking Ga. And where I'd like to leave us today is that 2019 was declared by the UN as the International Year of Indigenous Languages, which is kind of inspiring not just Indigenous peoples and First Nations, but minority language communities around the world to use their languages more actively online. And as one of the most prominent places on the internet, I think the various Wikimedia projects could play a really, really big role of this. And so I'd like to challenge everybody to think about how we can make Wikimedia in general more linguistically inclusive over the course of this next year. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you so much for insights. I would like to request Harold to share about his project. Thank you.
I will need a second, please. No worry. No worries there. Okay, so we're going to start with the video now. Then we will talk a little bit.
Can the benefits of digital education be brought to students beyond the reach of the internet?
Our device can hold all of Wikipedia in Spanish and Quechua, as well as a huge amount of other information.
A team of SIPA researchers travels to the mountains and jungles of Peru to test a new device aimed at connecting rural students with local language educational content.
It's impressive to see the eyes of a student that discovers something like internet, even if it's offline. They are teenagers and they were looking at Wikipedia for the first time in their lives.
Okay, what we're just showing now, what we will be showing completely in a second, is a research and a development project from Columbia University with the help of Wikipedia to bring technology to rural areas in Latin America. So we have schools in Latin America that don't have any access to the internet, that don't have any access to normal information for us. So what we were trying to do is to bring them the information and to try to bring that information also in the languages of those villages. So I'm going to be showing the video and I will be talking very quickly and give some time for questions later, okay? I hope you enjoy it.
In January 2018, I was selected to join the new SIPA capstone research team. With support from the Wikimedia Foundation, we would be testing a new generation of offline digital devices with the Ministry of Education of Peru.
SIPA has a number of programs that are called capstones or related projects that take students into the field to really test drive their research. and put a project into operation and see what works and what doesn't work. So we don't want to go straight to abstract screens in education.
The dynamics of the team are really good. We actually have a lot of different expertise.
I had the chance to work for the Ministry of Education in Mexico before coming to SIPA. Shri, she's from India.
Being from a technology background, I was naturally intrigued to know how the access to internet, the connectivity, infrastructure and its maintenance had an effect on education.
I figured out that there's only one flight a day to go over to the Amazon of where you guys are going to be.
Well, that narrows it down.
Our trip began with a flight to Lema, where our team would meet with members of the Peruvian Ministry of Education. Our goal was to better understand their plans for our research with the Internet in a Box device in Peru.
The fat handsome guy ready to present.
Básicamente sí funciona como cualquier modem que tengamos en casa o en cualquier instalación.
They wanted us to look at the mountainous region around Cusco and the Amazon River area called Amazonas. Shipping hundreds of textbooks is often not an option. They wanted us to see whether Internet in a Box could fill in the gap for some of these informational and educational needs.
Peru has made previous efforts to use technology in education, but some of these earlier initiatives have missed their mark.
Technology, there is always this wow factor, right? Like when you see something new, they're like, this is amazing, we want this for a classroom or we want to implement this. But beyond that, when you think about the implementation, the needs of the school system over there, that's when you realize that the device in itself isn't sufficient.
What kind of technology, what kind of content? Is it relevant for the people in the Sierra? Is it relevant for the people in the Amazonas? Is it different from the people in Lima?
A lot of attempts to insert technology into different situations has forgot to contextualize. So it's forgotten to ask people what they really want and how they want to use it.
A plan was drawn up in which 3 team members would travel to the mountain region of Cusco, together with a Peruvian researcher from the ministry. Another team would visit the schools in the Peruvian Amazon. Our team arrived in Cusco, the former capital of the Inca Empire. The Spanish colonial powers had built churches and fortresses on top of the ruins of former Inca temples and palaces.
You have a completely different historical background coming from Lima to Cusco.
It's a beautiful city and there is so much history. It's such high elevation. In the beginning, we had a lot of issues, like we felt completely exhausted. Even walking a little bit was so hard.
Jorge, where are you going?
To the school, our first school here in Peru.
Our goal was to visit a variety of schools over the course of our trip to test the Internet in a Box device. We focused on schools in remote areas, including this one, where students were taught in the indigenous language of Quechua.
We were very lucky because we assisted to one of the Cusco schools the first day of school. So we didn't know that they make like a festival.
In each school, our team met with local students and teachers to demo the device and to understand how it could best be used. Would their existing technology be compatible with our device? Would this be something they could see themselves and their students using?
By talking with the specialists and the teachers and the directors, we extracted information directly, and by doing that, we also show them the devices. O en cualquier institución, que es el modem.
We discovered that people had a real desire to use the device, especially if it meant students could access Wikipedia content in Spanish and Quechua. The device could hold the equivalent of thousands of books, articles, and educational materials. It seemed that the key would be to design a plan that would support implementation.
We knew that technology by itself wasn't supposed to solve all the problems of Peruvian education system. People were familiar with technologies, but they didn't know how to use them, and they didn't know how to apply them to education.
team members Catherine and Megan traveled to visit schools and conduct research in a radically different environment of the Peruvian Amazon.
The Amazon is beautiful. To get to each different community where we were going to stay for the night, we probably spent several hours a day traveling.
When we would go to the individual schools, these schools were located in really rural areas that you couldn't get to by road.
These are really remote locations and the students come from really far away. We heard from some of the students we talked to that it can take up to 5 days.
The team met with local teachers and students and attempted to see how the Internet-in-a-Box device could be used in the local context. One of the surprises was to see that these remote schools often had large computer labs, which were underutilized due to lack of training and internet access.
I had been impressed by how many computers were available. Sometimes there would be a lab with 20 or 30 computers, but some of them wouldn't turn on or they were older.
The Amazon team also came across an unusual discovery. Many of the schools had dozens of laptops from the massive one laptop per child program Peru had launched a decade earlier.
We walked into this old computer lab and there were just boxes and boxes and boxes stacked all over the walls.
Without consistent internet access and local Spanish or native language materials, many of the laptops had remained in their boxes unused.
It was hard to see such waste of technology, but I really think it gave us some of our biggest findings was that you can't just drop off technology and leave it. You really have to implement ongoing training, ongoing updates, and really integrate it into the curriculum. The curriculum and technology can't be separate.
Okay, this is a story of how are you going to take technology to places that don't have it. And this is a story of this project we were doing in Peru. And it took us we've been doing this for almost 3 years now in several countries. Professor Nelson from Columbia University is right here with us today. I wanted to show you the video about this Peruvian example because it shows very good that in 2019 it's easy to think that everybody has access to technology and that everybody can be a member of the wiki community in the world, but it's not as easy. I come from Cuba. I saw internet for the first time when I went to college, and I saw an email for the first time the first day in college. So I know how hard can that get. In these days, we're trying to get now this project, and we're trying to get Wikipedia to Cuba, which is a very hard thing to do too, because Peru has very different conditions than Cuba. And we're trying to do that in Cuba with two main constraints. First constraint, technology. Cuba is one of the less connected countries in the world. So it's a hard thing to do. And the second thing is, of course, is that we have some political limitations. The Cuban government built its own Wikipedia that is called EcoRed because they couldn't control the narrative in Wikipedia, so they built their own. So how do you manage to bring Wikipedia to a country where the government builds its own and don't want any competition? It's a very hard thing to do, but we're trying to do that. I will appreciate any advice you have after this debate on how to do that in such a hard environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let's go to the next Q&A session. I would like to request everyone to come on the stage. And all this, when you hear all these presentations, and definitely it makes you think yeah, Wikipedia is a truly global project. Please.
Questions?
Hi, does Wikipedia fit on the box?
Yes. Sorry. I actually don't want to touch anything because I got a cold.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah.
Well, our project is called Internet in a Box. It's not the same thing that Wikipedia in a box, but what we're trying to do mostly was to use a Raspberry Pi. I don't know if you know the device. We use a Raspberry Pi with 128 gigabytes. We put a lot of information there, and we bring it to villages that don't have any internet. And we bring it to schools. Internet doesn't fit in a box, but the parents were really appreciating that all the content in that small box was safe for their children, because they have a lot of concerns about internet. So it's pretty safe, and in schools works much better. And the investment to bring internet to those kind of places in the world is huge. They cannot afford that, but they can afford to have these small devices with a lot of educational content. So maybe not internet, but Wikipedia, certainly. Most of Wikipedia contents, that's fit in a box.
Hi, this question is for the gentleman on the end. I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but your experience in Peru, I would like to teach English in Peru, and I'm wondering that if you could give me any leads or tell me any idea from your experience, anything that might help me in terms of pursuing teaching English in Peru.
Well, okay, we went to schools in the city and the schools in rural schools. They will certainly appreciate an English professor. Like, they will really appreciate that. They have a lot of struggle with professors there. They have struggle because they have the capabilities that they need to build. They don't have all the resources for that, obviously. So they will really appreciate your help there. If you can, we can help you to put you in contact maybe with the Ministry of Education. And yes, one of the best things about this project is that we brought them Wikipedia in Quechua, and they didn't know that. And the Quechua professor. Yeah. Thank you. The Quechua professor in the schools didn't know that existed. And we bring it to him, and now the professors of Quechua can use Wikipedia to show the students. And for students, having things related to technology is very cool, so they're loving it. So.
Just hold on. Okay, other questions for the panel? Yeah.
My question to Wikitongues. Do you think that some religions use their religion to promote their tongue, like let's say Islam using, like let's say, the Quran to spread their language, the Arab language?
Well, it's certainly true that religions often have liturgical languages. Sometimes that can be an imposing force, right? If you have a really major religion that kind of requires everybody to practices to learn that language. Sometimes it can also have the opposite effect of actually helping to preserve a language that's otherwise been kind of eliminated. In Pennsylvania, for instance, there was a variety of German that is colloquially called Pennsylvania Dutch that for a very long time was widely spoken throughout the state. Over the 1900s, just as indigenous languages were persecuted, so too were other minority European languages like Pennsylvania Dutch or Louisiana French. But because the Amish and Mennonite communities are for the most part self-isolating, they still speak the languages and are still teaching it to children, which is making it more possible for like local community colleges to create programs because there are still, active native speakers. So in that case, it's perhaps the opposite of what you were describing. But yeah. It's also true with Hebrew, right, which today is a native language of about half the world's Jewish population, but originally went extinct in the 4th century BCE. And it was only revived in the 1800s because it was so well preserved as the liturgical language of Judaism. So language and religion definitely is intertwined.
Yeah, all right. Time for a couple more questions, I think.
Hi, I also have a question for you. I was just on your website, and it seemed that of the core people listed, only one was from Latin America, and so I was wondering what types of partnerships do you have there, since there's so many indigenous languages at the risk of extinction?
Sure. So the first thing is our website is from 2017. We're a completely volunteer-run organization, and so sometimes keeping that up to date is a challenge for us. We're about to relaunch. We have a community leader in El Salvador who is working on decentralizing our community for places in the world where Spanish is the lingua franca. Actually, the director of the Indigenous Languages Directive of the government of Peru is considering joining our advisory board. And we are hoping to be present at an event that they're hosting for the indigenous languages here in Cusco in October. So we are doing quite a bit. We're also talking to INALI, which is the it's the Mexican government's Indigenous Languages Directive, and they're really cool because they're doing a lot of social media stuff as well. So there's quite a bit. I'm happy to talk to you more about it afterwards.
Great, okay. Up here in the front?
Yeah, the question about Quechua in Peru is, my understanding is only Spanish is the official language there. And when I was in Peru, I mean, I noticed that so many people say, oh yeah, I understand Quechua, but I can't speak it. Somebody have told me. Is it really taught in the schools there? I mean.
We could both try and answer. In parts of the country, yeah. It's also undergoing a revitalization the same way other previously persecuted languages are. The phenomenon of people saying they understand but speak a language is actually really common in language revival circles. They refer to these people as silent speakers because it's often the case that they do speak the language, there's just social stigma around it and they're embarrassed to say that they do speak it.
Yeah, well, in my experience, I spent 2 months there doing the project. There is a correlation between how rural you live, how far you live, and how much Quechua you speak. Like in cities, it's mostly Spanish, but the more rural you go, the deeper inside you go, it's pre-Quechua. So, and also they are really trying to preserve their culture, and they are really feeling that it's in danger. So there are many organizations trying to support them and try to protect their identity. And I think one of the ideas of the project was that to support their own identity, because there's a big issue with that. And one of the biggest problems is that sometimes national governments don't understand the interests of small cities and the interests of small villages and the rural people. You know, maybe sometimes there is a disconnect between, you know, how people in the city perceive something, how it really is when you go there and their own interests. So we have to be we did the project not going with pre-assumptions. We went to there to learn from them and to see what they wanted to do, how we could support them.
Can I just add something? And also something that really ties Wikipedia in with what they're both saying is that there is a facility available, whether it's using the Kiwix and Internet in a Box, or listening to how the language is spoken and so forth, that through the utility of events or efforts like translate-a-thons and other translation projects, there's a link that Wikipedia can serve in the connection between, you know, learning the language and also connecting languages like Quechua to other parts of Wikipedia so that knowledge from those groups can grow together. So it really is very useful in that way as well.
So I think I have just one thing I wanted to say. So, sorry. Can you put it up a little? So, as a final segue to that, you are invited to our next Translate-a-thon at LaGuardia Community College. It's going to be on April the 11th and the 12th this spring. Okay, so it's going to be 2 days. April 11th is going to be in the evening, start at about 5 o'clock, and on the 12th, which is a Friday, is going to be all day long. You're going to see us, probably all of us there, so come on over. Bring your friends. Learn a few things about translating.
Great.
Yeah.
I think...
And also, if you want to get your editing chops in, work with editing in a different language or in any capacity, or about some of the countries maybe that you are interested in, please also come to the Schomburg on February 16th for the annual Black History Month edit-a-thon as well.
Great, thank you. Please join me in thanking our panelists. Great. I know, they're so awesome. So our next panel actually starts pretty soon. But we will have a panel on Wikidata and Wikitech here in Liberty Hall.